The story began with two men seated in a prison, tied down. One of the men happens to be Major Kang, who was on a mission to rescue the other man who happens to be a professor. The mission failed as their informant betrayed and trapped them. While Major Kang was apologizing to the professor for not being able to rescue him, a young man approached their prison gate and asked who was Major Kang. Speaking in Korean, Major Kang was surprised the masked man could speak his language, though it wasn't fluent, but the major only replied with, "Who are you?" The masked man replied he was here for him. So he released all the prisoners. The road out was filled with dead bodies of the enemies who trapped them, and that made Major Kang wonder who the masked man was and even asked which division he works for, but the masked man will only keep on insisting he was alone. They were soon confronted with another set of enemies, but the masked man knocked them all out all by himself and rescued all the hostiles. After the mission was over, the masked man took Major Kang to his platoon. He was excited to see them and appreciated the masked man for rescuing him and his platoon. While appreciating the masked man, they were all attacked unexpectedly with a mortar, but the masked man was able to fight back, but this time not with his mask on. Major Kang was shocked to see the masked man who rescued him was just a kid. The story picks up 6 months later in a high school in South Korea. It was the first day of Ejin-yu in the school, and he was introduced by his teacher to the other students. Throughout the day, Ejin-yu was spoken about in the school as the girls gush and gossip about how cute and hot he was. Ejin-yu met with his sister named Daeun. She never dreamed he would return, as she thought he died in the plane crash with their parents 10 years ago. And at the same time, some other girls came to Daeun to bully her, calling her all sorts of names to try to collect her gym uniform. So she questioned them, and in the process they started harassing her and even beating her. Back to Ijun in his class, the ladies are talking about how cute he is, while some boys in the class did not seem to like him, especially Young Chan, who tried to trip Ijun while he was looking for somewhere to sit. At that moment, Ijun remembers his Major Kang has warned him not to get into any fight when get to Korea. He also remembers saying he is not a beginner and he is not going to risk dying when he does not know the situation of his new surroundings. Ijun finally grabbed a seat beside Yang Chan Park, who was happy to meet him and also told him more about Jia Yang Lee and Haechin Ju, and also warned Ijun to stay away from them. After the day's work, Ijun asked Daeun if they could walk home together to their grandfather with whom they live with. On their way home, they met one of the ladies who bullies Daeun with some other guys. The lady began to make fun of Daeun. Ijun tried to ignore them and follow the advice given to him by Major Kang. Daeun apologized on Ijun's behalf, but seeing Daeun's face, he could not hold back any longer and smacked the guy. Ijun told his sister to wait a minute for him. The other guy ran toward Ijun but was brought down with only one punch. Daeun and the other lady were shocked at Ijun. Back at home, Ijun remains gentle, calm, and hardworking as he helps Grandpa out with dishes. Ijun was full of smiles. He was happy he was back with his family and loved it also. The next day at school, Yongshin Park asked Ijun if he was free after school, so he would show around, but Ijun declined. He told Yongshin Park he needed to walk his sister home after school. Yongshin Park was shocked to learn that Ijun has a sister in the school. He asked him if they transferred into the school together, but Ijun said she had been here before he came. Ijun told Yongshin Park who his sister was, and he was even more surprised that Daeun was Ijun's sister. Yongshin Park told Ijun that his sister was always being bullied because some girls were jealous of her for being beautiful and brilliant. Ijun couldn't believe his ears. Yongshin Park told Ijun that the girl that bullied Daeun was Gisu Kim, who was one of the worst loved at the school, so there's nothing anyone would have done to rescue Daeun. At that moment, Ijun remembers his grandpa asking Daeun how she was coping at school. Daeun kept saying she was fine and everything was going well at school. Ijun thanked Yongshin Park for sharing the information with him. Haejin, who is Jisoo Kim's sister, goes directly to Daeun with her friends and beat her up after the other lady told her what happened the previous day. She also told that Ijun was in trouble as she already reported him to her brother. Daeun rushed to Ijun's classroom. In Ijun's classroom, a group of thugs entered, including Gisu Kim, and Yongshin Park whispered to Ijun that Gisu Kim was around. Daeun then burst in and began to plead with the thugs to spare her brother, but Ijun told his crying sister to not beg as she is the victim, and he promised her to settle everything. Jisoo Kim sent his friends to fight Ijun. The three guys attacked him, but none of them managed to hit, and without any effort, Ijun destroyed the three of them and put them all on the ground. Meanwhile, Jisoo watches his friends being beaten and wondered if Ijun was really human and how class were left shocked. Jisoo went with the first attack. Jisoo tried to kick Ijun twice, but were both blocked by Ijun with taking a step, and then Ijun puts a big punch in Jisoo's face, and on the ground, Ijun kicked Jisoo, knocked him out. The whole class were surprised that the mighty Jisoo was knocked out in a fight. Ijun then began to walk slowly towards the girls, but his sister soon blocked him, telling him to stop. Ijun never expected it. As to her, he needed to teach them a lesson, so that they will stop bullying her, but Daeun replied him that they have settled it. Ijun walked his sister back to her homeroom. The whole school began to talk about Gisu and his gang who were wooed by just a guy. At this point, even the tough Jaehyun Lee and Hyeochin Ju are afraid of Aijin. Daeyeon apologized to Aijin as she blamed herself for dragging him into all the fighting he has been involved since he came back. Daeyeon tells him that he really fights well and Aijin thinks about his old job. "I remember the country I was in," he told Daeyeon. "Over there, everyone was thinking about themselves, but when it came to family, everyone had another family's attitude." Aijin, who has never experienced this, gradually began to understand these people since he now has a family. In the other Jisoo and his word, Jisoo had instructed her not to bully Daeyeon again, but she is not convinced enough to stop as she feels her brother and his friends were just weak and losers. She got angry and left the room for them. Back to Daeyeon, she kept on remembering how she always threatened and treated by Hyejin and her friends. Daeyeon was happy all that would stop now. Hyejin noticed Daeyeon was deep in thought and asked her if she was fine. She insisted she was fine. Hyejin promised to get back at Daeyeon. The next day, Daeyeon was caught by a group of masked girls. She immediately understood it was Hyejin and her friends. They took her to a karaoke and beat her up. No one could hear her shout because of the loud music being played. After the girls had left, the employer went out to inspect the room and found Daeyeon lying on the ground injured. He tried to call the ambulance for her, but she rejected and said she was fine. Daeyeon was unable to attend the classes on that day and her seat was empty. After school, Hyejin waited for Daeyeon at their normal location, but she would not show up. He tried calling her, she did not also pick, so he concluded she might have gone home. Hyejin got home and saw a shoe at her doorstep. He knocked at her door, but she only relied from her room. Hyejin asked her to open her door, but she said she was sick with fever. IG decided to go and get his sister medicine. He then noticed her shoe was stained with blood. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to see more anime and manhwa recaps.